Free agent defensive back Sneed was recently spotted visiting the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is sparking serious talk of a reunion. But Patrick Mahomes just made a shocking statement about Sneed, and suddenly, this is a lot more than just a rumor. Let's break down the tape. ESPN's Adam Schefter confirms the Chiefs are officially hosting Sneed for a high-stakes visit. That single report sent NFL social media into absolute chaos. We are not just talking about any cornerback visiting any team. This is the guy Mahomes begged to keep. He was a key engine behind 3 Super Bowl runs in that Kansas City secondary, and now he is back at Arrowhead, looking to see if his old locker is still open. And trust me, Mahomes wants him back. When Kansas City traded Sneed to Tennessee back in 2024, Mahomes was brutally honest. He told the media directly, "I think you will hear it from everyone on our team that we want Sneed. The player he is, the person he is one of those guys who is hungry every single day he is in the building. That is a franchise quarterback fighting for his guy." Now, over 2 years later, the stars have aligned in a way nobody saw coming. The Chiefs need defensive backs, Sneed needs a job, and Mahomes, who is battling through the toughest injury rehab of his life, desperately needs reliable, championship-level talent when he returns to the field. Kansas City lost 2 elite starting cornerbacks this offseason in Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie. They traded McDuffie to the Rams for a massive haul of draft capital, including a 2026 first-rounder. So, their cornerback crisis is not theoretical, it is urgent. There is a massive void in the secondary, and the front office is hunting for answers. Having Sneed walk into the facility is not a coincidence, it is a calculation. If he actually signs back with Kansas City, he would basically be replacing both McDuffie and Watson, their lockdown duo who just moved over to the Los Angeles Rams. That is no small task. We are talking about anchoring a defense that must carry a team rebounding from its worst season in a decade. Now, if you and I look at the fan base, they erupted. The second news broke that Tennessee cut Sneed and Kansas City was interested. Chiefs Kingdom completely took over social media, blowing up every single comment section. One fan summed it up perfectly. "Tell me where to bet that he goes back to Kansas City." Another posted, "Someone is getting a seriously good cornerback." And an analytical fan looked at the business side. Cutting an elite corner just 1 year into a massive contract proves Tennessee is choosing cap space over star power for 2026. The buzz around a potential Sneed reunion is not just hope. It feels almost inevitable. If he is healthy, and that is a massive if, you have to expect the Chiefs front office to check what is left in the tank. They need to see how he fits back into a scheme he dominated in back in 2023. That health status is the ultimate wild card hanging over this entire reunion. This is about way more than pure talent. It is about what is left after 2 rough years in Tennessee. Watching his prime get slowed down by a nagging injury that just would not go away. But before analyzing his struggles with the Titans, let's take a look at where this story started. Because to understand what Mahomes is searching for, you and I have to remember how dominant Sneed used to be. Drafted out of Louisiana, the Chiefs grabbed him in the 4th round, pick 138 back in 2020. No one expects a superstar at pick 138, but he completely shattered those low expectations. The coaching staff threw him straight into the fire, and he immediately stepped up when injuries hit. He embraced the challenge, quickly developing into a premier lockdown corner who erased the league's top wide receivers. By 2023, he recorded 78 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a career-best 14 passes defended. Back in 2022, he set career marks with 108 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3 picks, and 11 pass breakups, plus 3 forced fumbles. Those are not typical defensive back stats that is an elite playmaker changing games. Year after year, he served as a foundation for this Chiefs dynasty, and Mahomes respected that. The entire locker room did. Sneed logged 10 interceptions during his 4-season run in Kansas City, 10 takeaways during an era defined by offensive firepower and championship-level defensive grit. Sneed anchored that secondary, making sure opposing quarterbacks paid a heavy price for testing them deep. Now, that playmaker is back in the building. And the big question you and I are watching closely is, can he ever be that elite defender again? The Chiefs do not trade away their homegrown stars. That is the unwritten rule in Kansas City, where Brett Veach prefers building through the draft. Veach keeps his premier playmakers, and whenever the salary cap gets tight, he always finds a clever way to make the money work. But back in the spring of 2024, that strategy completely broke down, and we are still feeling those massive ripple effects today. Kansas City and the Tennessee Titans finalized a blockbuster deal, sending L'Jarius Sneed to Nashville for a future third-round selection and a late-round pick swap. A mere third-round draft pick for a two-time Super Bowl champion playing at the absolute peak of his defensive powers. The instant that blockbuster trade went public, Chiefs fans barely had time to process the news before Tennessee handed the star cornerback a massive new contract, a $76 million contract. He went from pick 138 to a $76 million superstar. His rise was incredibly fast, and as beautiful as that career arc looked on paper, it completely masked the trouble ahead. What made this move sting was that he never wanted to leave. Like this video if you feel for him. After the 2023 season, the star confessed he wanted to stay, saying, quote, "I did not talk to them. I was upset, man. I was upset," end quote. You know, Kansas City is like my first love. They showed me the way, taught me how to be a champion, and gave me 2 championship rings. I was definitely bitter and angry because I wanted to stay in that winning environment around the teammates I grew up with. That quote says it all. This was not a player chasing a paycheck or demanding a fresh start. He wanted to stay in Kansas City, play with Mahomes, and protect the dynasty. But the ruthless business of the NFL does not care about your feelings, and Patrick Mahomes did not pretend to be happy about it either. In a leaked video just hours before the deal, Mahomes was caught advocating to keep his star defender, with Rashee Rice in the background agreeing entirely. His teammates felt it. Subscribe for more stories like this. A heavy grief hung in that locker room, tempered only by the hope that their brother would secure the life-changing contract he deserved. Mahomes openly stated, quote, "We want everybody to get paid, so whatever happens, we are going to be excited for him," end quote. He added he hoped that would be with the Chiefs. But just hours later, Sneed was shipped off to Tennessee. At least the star quarterback could find peace knowing his friend got paid. He secured his bag, and that part worked out, but what followed surely did not. The Titans believed they landed an elite shutdown corner, handing him a $76.4 million deal with $51.5 million guaranteed. You and I can see how bold that vision was. They saw what Kansas City built with Sneed's talent, and they desperately wanted to import that formula, importing a seasoned champion to anchor a weak defensive secondary that had been bleeding points to opponents for years. General manager Ran Carthon and head coach Brian Callahan believed they were building a contender, with Sneed as the ultimate centerpiece. The front office traded for him to instantly upgrade the leadership and inject championship experience into their young secondary. Standing 6'1", the 192-pound corner arrived, having logged 10 interceptions and 40 pass deflections with the Chiefs. His championship pedigree was undeniable. The elite credentials were real, but his physical frame, battered by 4 intense pro seasons and pushed through endless summer training camps, was reaching its absolute breaking point. And those deep postseason runs left the star with physical limits that no one in Tennessee expected. What no one saw coming, or perhaps simply chose to ignore, was how rapidly and completely the entire investment would collapse. The next chapter of his career looked nothing like his glorious past, leaving the Titans franchise stuck holding a highly expensive receipt for an injured star. 2 seasons, 12 games, 0 interceptions. That is his entire tenure with the Titans summarized in one incredibly depressing stat line. Behind those flat numbers, you and I find a heartbreaking story of a champion who simply could not escape the injury report to show his true value on the field. He suffered a major quadriceps injury during the 2024 campaign, which ended his year and required major surgery. That lingering issue held him out of the 2025 training camp, landing the defender on the physically unable to perform list. He fought back and managed to play 7 games last year, but once again, his stubborn leg injury forced him to shut it down. The exact same issue striking twice. The identical quad injury that derailed year 1 returned to claim his second season, and this time with absolutely no mercy. After playing only 5 games in 2024 due to his leg, he returned in 2025 but managed only 7 games before a re-injury in a week. 7 defeat to New England sent him straight back to injured reserve. Week 7. Just 7 games into a long year he spent the entire offseason struggling to get healthy for. He hit the turf again in the 3rd quarter against New England, and just like that, Tennessee's dream of building their secondary around Sneed was shattered, first gradually, then all at once. The training staff officially ruled Sneed out for the remainder of that Patriots game. That quad injury was just too severe for him to return, and you could feel the mood instantly shift inside that Titans locker room. Backup players had to step up. For all practical purposes, his time in Nashville was already done, even if nobody wanted to admit it. But while his body was failing him on the field, his life off of it was spinning into total chaos. Sneed was hit with a misdemeanor indictment down in Texas for failing to report an aggravated assault linked to a shooting near Dallas. a Dallas County grand jury officially indicted him for not reporting a felony. The court documents pointed back to December 6, 2024. That was the exact day two men filed a civil lawsuit, claiming they were shot at from a luxury SUV carrying Sneed and Takanze William. The whole mess started with an incident involving a man in a Mercedes at a car dealership over in Carrollton, Texas. This was no minor headline. We are talking about a grand jury indictment here. Real criminal charges that threaten to follow him into free agency and scare off any team thinking about signing him. If convicted, he faced up to 1 year in county jail and a fine of up to $4,000. The Titans put out a brief statement addressing the indictment, saying they said they were aware of the legal matter with Adoree Jackson Sneed and were contacting league security, but declined to comment further. Now, that is the exact kind of corporate speak a front office uses when they want to distance themselves from a massive story. Tennessee was already managing a defender who could not stay healthy. Now they had to deal with a player who could not stay out of the headline. The franchise was burning through cap space, shedding credibility, and losing games all at once. Sneed walked away with $43 million while leaving behind over $8 million in dead cap for 2026. For all that cash, they got 12 games of spotty play, multiple knee and quad injuries, and the biggest off-field legal headache the franchise had seen in years. In our view, that 4-year, $76.4 million contract for L'Jarius Sneed was easily one of the worst NFL signings of 2025. That is a brutal assessment, especially for a guy who just 2 years earlier was ranked among the absolute best shutdown corners in the league. But the tape does not lie, and Tennessee got a mere shadow of the elite defender they paid for. Cutting him saved them $11.4 million against the 2026 cap, despite taking an $8.1 million dead cap hit. They just wanted out, so they moved on. With a new coaching staff and Robert Saleh arriving to rebuild this roster from the ground up, the Titans cut ties with their $76 million signing after just 2 disappointing seasons. $43 million spent with absolutely nothing to show for it. The experiment was officially over, but let us dig into where this story takes a turn. Because despite the injuries and the legal drama, none of it erased the raw talent that Patrick Mahomes always respected. The question was never about Sneed's coverage skills. It was simply whether his body would cooperate. But before he could even think about stepping back onto a football field, he had to clear his name. And in the spring of 2026, that dark cloud finally began to clear. Texas prosecutors officially dismissed all criminal charges against him, putting an end to the allegations from that December 2024 car dealership shooting. The counts were first reduced to a misdemeanor before prosecutors decided to drop the case completely, and Sneed's defense team confirmed there was no conviction and no admission of guilt. No guilty plea, no record. His defense attorney, Michael J. Todd, announced that all charges against his client, former defender Jaron Keir Sneed, had been thrown out. This ruling finally wraps up a messy legal battle that dogged him throughout his time with the Titans, indictment and all. From indictment to complete dismissal, from the absolute lowest point of his personal life to walking away a completely free man. Sneed admitted these past 2 years took a massive toll on him, but says he is ready to win back everything he lost. That statement shows a mix of personal relief and competitive grit as he fights to revive his career after injuries and legal drama. When he says the weight is finally off, that is his ultimate reset button. That is a guy who has been holding his breath for 2 years, finally exhaling. And when an athlete exhales like that, they run towards something. For L'Jarius Sneed, that destination looks to be Kansas City. Even with the criminal case closed, Sneed still faces a $1 million civil lawsuit from Christian Shimiamana, who alleges Sneed and his assistant shot at him. The plaintiff claims he did not know Sneed at all and was likely just mistaken for someone else. This active lawsuit will certainly factor into how front offices evaluate the risk of signing the free agent corner, so it is not entirely clean. There is still that civil battle. An ongoing lawsuit you and I know teams must evaluate before they commit. But criminal charges and civil disputes are two very different beasts, and in the NFL, a criminal record is the loudest alarm bell. With that cleared, the path back onto the field opens up wide. Now, as you hit that subscribe button, let's look at his visit. The Chiefs desperately need cornerback depth with the season approaching, and they are exploring a reunion with a former key piece of 2 Super Bowl runs who hit some legal speed bumps. ESPN reports that veteran cornerback L'Jarius Sneed is indeed visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. That scoop came directly from Adam Schefter, and when he reports a visit, we know the dominoes are already falling. Insiders around the league predicted a Chiefs reunion was on the horizon for Sneed during the 2025 offseason. It turns out that prediction was right on the money. Just a year ahead of schedule. The timing never fit before, but now it does. Tennessee cut him, and those charges got dropped. Kansas City lost 2 corners from last year, and Mahomes, rehabbing a torn ACL and LCL, is grinding to be ready for Week 1 of 2026. Patrick Mahomes sparked massive hope for Chiefs Kingdom when he was spotted throwing passes just 3 months after tearing his ACL. He suffered that brutal knee injury against the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 15, ending his 2025 season. The superstar signal caller went down hard that afternoon, and Kansas City went down with him. Honestly, even before that injury, Mahomes and the Chiefs were heading toward their worst season since he was drafted in 2017. With that defeat, the Chiefs officially missed the postseason for the first time since 2014. Mahomes spoke about his recovery after the season ended, saying, "First off, rehab is going great so far. I have been hitting all the checkpoints the doctors wanted while getting my strength and range of mobility back." That is a franchise quarterback who refuses to let a single injury define his career. He is attacking it. His public push to be ready for Week 1 tells us the front office is in off-season mode, building a roster for his return. Mahomes added, "I think long-term. I want to be ready for Week 1. That is the goal. And if Mahomes is going to be ready for Week 1, Kansas City must surround him with weapons and defenders that make every single week of that season matter." Sneed is exactly that kind of piece. Leave a like if you agree, because the visit happened and the door is wide open. The real question you and I must ask is not whether they want Sneed, but if he is still worth the gamble, and that is a highly complex question. Sneed was an absolute shutdown corner for Kansas City during his rookie deal. His best season came in 2022, racking up 108 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 11 pass deflections. He also disrupted plays near the line, registering 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. That 2022 version of L'Jarius Sneed was a complete defensive weapon, versatile, physical, and switchable, the exact corner who made Andy Reid's defense genuinely dangerous. And in 2023, he was just as good, ranking among the league's top lockdown defenders, recording 14 pass deflections, including 2 crucial interceptions, while allowing just a 56.2 passer rating when targeted across 16 games. A 56.2 rating when targeted. That means when opposing quarterbacks tested him, they lost. That is elite lockdown play. From 2021 to 2023, the corner missed only 3 games. During that span, Sneed played at an absolute peak level, racking up 33 pass deflections, 7 interceptions, 262 tackles, and 4.5 sacks. 3 missed games over 3 years. That is incredible durability, the exact quality Tennessee thought they bought for $76 million. But what they failed to factor in was the heavy toll 2 extra years of NFL punishment took on his body. That quad muscle snapped under the pressure of Tennessee's opening game. It refused to heal, ultimately bringing his entire tenure with the Titans crashing to the ground. Even on his healthy days in Nashville, Sneed just didn't look like an elite shutdown corner anymore. That is why this rumored Chiefs reunion is such a massive question mark. Sure, the Chiefs need help at cornerback, but it only works if Sneed has gas left in the tank. Nagging quad issues completely robbed him of his elite play on the field while keeping him off it. That is the real drama here. It is not just about his health, it is about production. When Sneed actually played for the Titans, he looked like a different defender. He registered just 49 tackles and 0 interceptions over his 2 seasons in Tennessee. Not a single pick. A guy who regularly intercepted passes in Kansas City went 2 straight years without a takeaway in Nashville. Part of that is health. Part of it is opportunity. But mostly, severe injuries can dull the sharp instincts that make a defensive back elite. Hit like if you think Sneed can still ball, because no stat line captures what Mahomes knows he is worth. They remember how dominant he is when healthy. They won championships together. They built a dynasty with him patrolling the deep coverage. Now, he is visiting Kansas City after passing his Titans exit physical. With his off-field issues cleared, it suggests that beneath the physical and mental scars, that championship-caliber cornerback is still in there. Make no mistake, if Kansas City signs him, he will have to fight hard just to make this roster. But if his body holds up, he could earn himself a massive role in their defensive rotation. That is the realistic outlook here. He is not a guaranteed starter. Nothing is going to be handed to him on a silver platter. It is a shot, and a veteran like Sneed has the resume to earn it. This meeting does not guarantee a contract, but it could put him right back in position to chase another Super Bowl. If Patrick Mahomes is 100% by kickoff, or at least back by mid-season, both of those ifs are carrying a massive amount of weight. If Sneed is healthy, and if they can rebuild a secondary that lost 2 key starters, we are looking at a mountain of variables. But the NFL has always been built on giant ifs, and the teams lifting trophies are always the ones bold enough to gamble on the right talent. Kansas City is fresh off their most disappointing campaign of the entire Andy Reid era. Sure, injuries piled up, but for most of the season, this squad looked like a shell of their former self. To make matters worse, Mahomes tore his ACL late in the year against the Los Angeles Chargers. Heading into 2026, this roster is hungry to win again. Honestly, hungry is an understatement. You have a superstar quarterback who refuses to miss the playoffs, and a head coach at age 68 with plenty to prove. Subscribe to track this comeback, because their locker room has been plotting a response ever since. Bringing him back is not just about nostalgia, it is strategic. They desperately need corners. They need experienced defenders who already know the system inside and out. Players who do not need time to adjust. Because Andy Reid's playbook is notoriously tough to learn on the fly. Sneed already speaks their defensive language fluently. He learned his craft in this building. At this stage of the game, it makes total sense for the front office to bring him in, check his medicals, and start those contract negotiations. Maybe those talks lead nowhere, and the reunion falls through. But then again, a quiet homecoming might be exactly what this struggling defender and a depleted defense both need. That phone call to open this dialogue was, quite frankly, 2 seasons overdue. Mahomes wanted him in 2024, but the front office said no. Tennessee paid a massive fortune for a playmaker they could never keep on the field. Meanwhile, off-field legal drama put him through the ringer before finally clearing his name. And now, stripped of all contract leverage, stripped of that massive Titans contract, with nothing left but his tape and raw hunger, Sneed is walking back into the facility where he became a star. Whether they get a deal done or not, you and I can see this story already sends a massive message to the league. It proves that Mahomes, even while recovering from a major knee injury, is actively recruiting pieces to help him win. It shows that certain homecomings, no matter the obstacles, just have a funny way of working out. Subscribe for more updates on this. Mahomes did not need a loud press conference or a viral post. Just one phone call, a secret visit, and an NFL front office in overdrive. But sometimes, those silent moves speak loudest. Smash that subscribe button.